Hi, my name is Joanna. So I was born in the States, was raised in France, and I have been in Israel for 15 years.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started into this episode.
I've done a career in nonprofit. I've been working with the Israeli government and International Placement Agency, the Joint, which is a big NGO, Jewish NGO that provides services, does fundraising um, uh, for the Jewish community around the world, for the Israeli a society in Israel per se, which incorporates all sectors of the society, and also that does other projects to help the in case of emergency, has a lot of projects that help populations around the world when there are humanitarian disasters happening, for example. And I've been working for the last 9 years in the first private university in Israel, located in Herzliya. And I recently, I was working in financial aid, providing loans and scholarship for international students so that they can study and they can pursue their dream of education here in Israel. And I've recently decided to change my career and to do a course to be a human resources professional in the high tech scene in Israel here. So that's kind of like, where I am right now, changing my life and continuing the story of being in Israel and building a life here.
All right, that's it. That's very interesting. Changing career, and that is the beautiful thing also of the economy that we have today. We're
Exactly.
going to be changing all the time, so that's interesting. Do you want to tell me something about where you grew up? Which state did you grow up in the U.S.? Tell me something about that. We like to talk about people's background.
Yes, for sure. So I was born in South Bend, Indiana, in the U.S. My dad used to work. He had a furniture company, and he had a branch of the company in L.A. In the States for 12 years. So, that's why me and my siblings were born in the States because he was working there. But we grew up in France, in Strasbourg, near Germany. Um, I grew up there all my life in a small city next to Strasbourg, actually. And, French family, Jewish family, um, from, Ashkenazic background, which basically means that, my mother's parents were from Germany and Austria before the Second World War, and my um, father's parents were from Alsace. And so I grew up, speaking French family, but with, Jewish religion and traditions, and German always, in the background, since Alsace is so close to Germany. So it was, taught at school, and, we learned it pretty early on. And so I was there my entire life. I was lucky enough to be in the States a lot when I was growing up, to go to, see my family, be in summer camps, and always has this like American background, when I was growing up. Later on, I started to study languages. I wanted to be an interpreter, studied in Strasbourg, um, lived there with roommates, and then afterwards, basically, did a year in the States at an American university, Kalamazoo College in Michigan. And I also did an internship in Santa Barbara in the Jewish community in Santa Barbara over there to graduate to get my BA. And both of those experiences were fascinating and really, um, allowed me to like change my life, I guess, for the first time, and move from, I moved from France to States. And then afterwards, I decided that I wanted to study abroad again. So when I finished the year in the States, I came back from to France, finished my degree, my BA, and then decided I wanted to study an MA either in the States or in Israel. I was raised, Zionistic. Israel always had a place in our family of, French first generation, basically, because, of everything that happened. And I just wanted to check it out and see, if I would like it over there in a university framework so that I could have something, a diploma, in my hands and learn along the way in an academic setting. And I looked up universities and I decided to just, apply to all of them. And then I chose the program that was the best fit in Jerusalem and started to study my master's at Hebrew University in Jerusalem, Israeli politics and society, did a lot of research, and I liked it and I stayed. I guess that's how I became an Israeli citizen.
So you are connected to a different continent now.
Yes.
US, that is America, Europe, France, and Germany, and now you are in the Middle East. You are sort of connecting the world now in a web. So how do you feel about that? Is there anything that is sort of making you to turn around, enjoy these places?
Well, I'm lucky enough. I mean, all my family is in France, my immediate family, and I have friends all over the world. I've been lucky enough to keep in touch with a lot of my friends, whether it's in Ecuador, in the States, in Europe, or in any other countries. In Japan, for example, I have some, and my family being in France. I mean, I'm lucky enough, at least until now, that I've been able to fly a lot every few months to see them, even during COVID, which was very challenging. As we all know, COVID was a challenging period when people had family abroad. Like there are a lot of families here in Israel where, you have people are here, they immigrate and their family are abroad. So that was challenging for a lot of people here. And I've been lucky enough to, be able to see them every couple of months and to have, the base there. And I mean, who knows where I'll be, right? I mean, I do, obviously want to stay in Israel and build my life here. But I am I'm very fortunate to have been able to learn languages that enable me to understand people around me in many countries. And that really, really shaped, my career until now. That is really the dot that really connected, everything that I've been doing, and always gave me new opportunities in, the different fields I've been into. The languages, every language is a culture. That's afterwards what enable us to understand each other. The more you understand the culture of the person, the more you can relate and the more you can share. And afterwards, build relationships. So that's how I was trained as an interpreter, and how I've been enriching my life experience and professional experience. And I hope that this is also what's going to lead to my next challenge and continue making a difference and make an impact on the society.
That's great. I'm sort of curious, as you move around from US to France and also to Israel, you are currently in Jerusalem, right?
I'm in Tel Aviv. I
Oh,
moved
you are
to
in Tel
Tel Aviv
Aviv.
7 years ago.
Okay, okay. All right. So I'm trying to understand if the different culture that you are meeting are having a kind of impact in you, because now you are going to adapt. And United States and France are not exactly the same, even though we are talking about the same Western society here. There are differences, no? And then you go to Israel. So I'm trying to understand if there are differences here in terms of, I mean, how are you adapted to the different culture?
So basically, I guess I mean, it's if you learn the language, at least the way I did learn it, um, you're always, really learning about people themselves, and whether you watch television or you read the newspaper or you have coffee with someone, in a in the restaurant or you sit next to someone in an airplane. It's if you want to talk and discuss, and I guess that's where, for me it's has always been very easy to talk and to start conversations, and I've always been very curious about people next to me. I wanted to always understand how they think and who they are. So I guess that when you start like that, afterwards, when you don't talk the language, you can learn a lot. When you talk the language, you can learn even more. And I guess that adapting means, not having a narrow-minded view, always trying to, not assuming that always trying to be as diverse as possible, inclusive as possible, and try always to, set up the values of, what is most important for me. Uh, is the most important for me that the person is very similar to me, or is it most important that we share the values of, trying to, be in a society that is sustainable and in a, eating healthy and being good to one another and loyal, and those values can be found everywhere. If you look at it and you look at different people in different countries and different societies, at the end of the day, people want, the importance that they strengthen our family and our, they want to live a healthy life, and they want to have a good future for their kids, and they value the value of work. So I think that for me, adapting is really trying to find how I can, building how I can build relationships and do everything in my power in order to make sure that I can help people, whether it's helping the company I'm at recruiting and getting them the best workers, or making sure that uh, people know where they can volunteer in order to make an impact, or where they can recycle in the street, because they don't know the regulation and it's new and they want to know where to donate clothes. So trying to kind of always um, set the set of values, and being open to who you meet. I mean, you never know who you're going to meet. It's like, the movie, Forrest Gump, life is a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get. That's kind of how I look at it.
I like it. I like it. You see, I was born in Nigeria. I grew up there until the age of 24 before I came to Italy. All these years, I've been making a lot of experience here. Of course, I traveled to other European country. I love it. I love it. I wrote a book that I titled The Journey. Literally, in that book, I said that in life, we are in a journey.
We
Of course,
do.
this is both physical and also spiritual, depending on how you want to interpret it. In that you don't, you are not born to die in the same spot. In movement, we learn a lot of things because when you move out of something. In most of the cases, out of your comfort zone.
Exactly.
Coming, yeah, learning new languages, meeting new people, breaking contradictions, having to interpret and reinterpret things, your identity,
Hmm.
everything become a question now. Everything become questionable now. And I think it is important. At the end of the day, when you come to narrate this as your experience, it becomes very rich, both to you and to the society where you live. So, in this sense, I don't know if you want to tell me something related to your movement from France to Israel. If there was anything that led you to that movement, and what has been your experience, what do you want us to know? Share with us.
So basically, I mean, I really agree with you. Life is a journey, it's not a destination. And moving out of your comfort zone, I mean, I just moved, apartments, and I'm going to a new career in a new field, and I loved my job at the university. But I was like, okay, so how can I transfer the set of skills, to a different sector in order to make a different impact, and still, growing and doing this, and that's how, that's what led me to learning, HR, and looking in high tech right now. And it also relates to everything I do. And you asked me about, the move from France to Israel. When I came back to France, I was after a year abroad already, And I had thought about moving to Israel for quite some time because I have learned so much, about Israeli politics and society, and I met Israelis abroad, and I was raised Zionist, and I'm Jewish, and so I was like, everybody keeps talking about it. I want to check it out. I don't know if it's for me. I don't speak Hebrew yet. I mean, I know, religiously, I learned the prayers and everything, but I don't know if it's for me. So I'm only going to know if I check it out. So I just really, thought about the best way, it was for me. And I mean, I could have gone to a kibbutz, and worked in the field and pick up apples, and that's what my mom did. And my dad also was in a kibbutz when he was younger, which a kibbutz is a place where it's small villages, I guess, but at the beginning of the state, it's where everybody was sharing everything. And when you worked, then you worked for the money went to the kibbutz, and then afterwards that's afterwards how you I mean, I'm probably explaining it not as probably as I should, but basically it was a way of life that was very in common for everything. And now it became more like independent small villages or cities. But let's say if you went there, there are a lot of volunteering that are existing in those kibbutz today. And so let's say if right now I could have go and volunteer for 6 months, and help in the kibbutz, work there, pick apples, and work in the maintenance, or with the elderly in the kibbutz, and try to be in Israel that way, and have that experience of the first experience in Israel. I wanted to have an experience more in an academic setting. So that's why, I decided to do an MA here, and I started to, to study, and I started to dance salsa, which is very funny because it's not typical Israeli dancing, but it's very, very popular here in Israel, Latin dances. So I started to dance Cuban salsa at the university, and that's how I met Israelis. Actually, I didn't speak Hebrew. I was learning, and the salsa teaching was in Hebrew. And my friend from Argentina that I had just met told me, come to salsa. I have a friend who's from Argentina. She's teaching. It's fun. It's for free. It's for students. Come and check it out. And I went there and I fell in love with it. And I started, dancing and meeting people, and everybody was a student, and we were all dancing together, and then going to events and Shabbat dinners, which is like the dinner you have on Friday night, at the beginning of the Shabbat, and the holidays. And it really became a community, and that's how I integrated into the society, socially speaking. And that's how I improved my Hebrew and met, friends that are still my friends today. So that's kind of, if you're asking me of the move from France to Israel, it was, I was lucky. I was lucky that my parents, were here for me and allowed me to, to do this, to study in a university, and, and they were subsidizing, my stay. I worked, obviously, but they were the one giving me the chance to do it, and it worked. So thanks, Mom and Dad.
That's good. All right. So in this period that you'll be moving around, you have stayed in Israel, I think, for 15 years now, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So have you also been working with immigrants? Because I understand that in Israel, there are a lot of people that are coming in, okay, for a variety of reasons. It might be for pure immigration reason. Okay, I don't even know if there's anything as pure immigration reason. I mean, people that are migrating for religious reason, or for economic reason, or just because they want to make a trip outside. For one way or the other, there are a lot of people coming into Israel. Okay, I understand when it is happening like this, there are also some people who get caught up in the middle, no? Maybe they're not able to move beyond, so they remain within the system. So at the point, this can be a little bit problematic, no? Like you have in many countries. So have you been able to work with places like this, or can you tell me anything in those areas?
I worked with different places when it comes to immigration. When I came to Israel, I did work for a bit at the UNHCR, which handled every, immigration asylum seeker request for anyone who was seeking asylum in Israel mainly. And then afterwards, when I worked with immigrants, it was mostly immigrants that were Jewish that wanted to come back to Israel under the law of return, because when you're Jewish, you have the possibility to immigrate to Israel under a specific law, which is called the law of return. So I dealt a lot with Jewish immigrants that wanted to be Israeli citizens, and also, with a lot of immigrants that came because they had a work visa, or they, the company in Israel wanted them to come work for them, and then, helping them go through the process of, getting a work visa and coming to Israel. But I dealt with that much less. That was really something that I helped a little bit with. But I guess mostly, those two kind of immigration, if you might say.
All right. So you did make mention of the return as a form of, I don't know, maybe it's a law there that permits Israeli outside to return to the country, right?
Israel is, it's by definition, it's a Jewish state. So in Israel, you have Jews and non-Jews. Obviously, you have a lot of, the population is very diverse. 20% of the Israeli citizens are Arab Israelis. In the Arab Israelis, you have Christians, you have, Druze, you have Muslims. So you have very diverse population. And then in the Jewish population, you have religious, Jews, non-religious, and then every, sector. I mean, there are many different segments in every population. So, and in everybody that lives in Israel, most people are come from a different country. So, they come with their own background from their own country when they immigrate. So that's, the population is like very, very international, you might say. And when you're Jewish, you are able to, they say, make aliyah, to come back to Israel and to become an Israeli citizen automatically, because, the state was funded in 1948 as a Jewish state that allows, Jews around the world to basically come back to the state if they want to. So I guess that's what I meant by law of return.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. I don't know if you want to speak more on that in that. How do you even determine who is an Israeli, who is a Jew, who is able to return to the Jewish state? Do you want to say anything about that?
Well, I'm not an expert. I think that for this, it's just best to look at the Ministry of Interior integration to look, at the criteria and the way it works. I don't like to, delve into details about, regulation that I'm not an expert at. So I think that for, everybody listening to us, if they're thinking about, they're Jewish and they don't know what it means and how it means and if it's enough or not, and are thinking about, Israel and immigrating and everything, I think it's just best to directly, read what's on the website. It's explained in many, many languages. Talk to the Jewish agency, which, has offices all over the world. And I think that it's just going to be, give better clarification on the topic.
I love that. In fact, I do have some curiosity, as how an average Israeli is really comport themselves on the street, because since I've never been there, that is why I have maybe some of this curiosity. Because from outside, it will appear as a religious country, very religious country as Israel. Like maybe, for example, like you look at Vatican. Vatican is a state. It's also a very peculiar case. Or maybe you will look at Saudi Arabia. All these are state, no, but it's a different kind of state, no. That they are very religious in a sense, the way they look at the holy scriptures, and so I'm trying to understand if the way of behavior in the society in Israel as a state is different from maybe what you might say in other country. So it's just a
Well,
curiosity, yeah.
it's a democratic country, first of all. So, the religion is, even if most of the population is Jewish, and, the religion has, a certain place, historically and legally, it, not everybody who is in Israel has to be Jewish or has to be religious, and not everybody who's Jewish is religious. Like, it is a democratic country. There's a set of rules, with schools, and there are a lot of different um, uh, people from different background and faiths, Jewish, non-Jewish, Arab, Muslim, Arabs, Christian Arabs, Druze, mixed. I mean, it is actually the only democratic country in the Middle East, if you look at it. And so it's a fascinating country because it's very small, and you have very different aspects of everything. And it's, if you go from the north to south, it's about 6 hours. So basically, whether you are in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv, it's going to appear like a different planet. Or if you're in the north and the south, same thing. So it's not like when you go to the Vatican and, you see that this is what there is, and it's really religious, and it's much more diverse, and it's a very different setting historically and legally, actually. So again, not my area of expertise, but basically, uh, it is not because you're in Israel that you are only religious and only Jewish and has to conform to this religious law, like it would be in other countries that are completely governed by, let's say, the Sharia, for example, in certain countries. So that's not like that. There's a place of the religion, but it is, a democratic country. So, you are a free citizen.
All
Very
right, I love that. Yeah, of course, we like freedom, and of course, we also like to talk about a lot of other people that are like us, maybe living in a different situation. Come on, let's share that. That's why we are also here, though, to talk about ourselves
Mhm.
and see what we can learn from each other. All right, now, Joanna, tell me more about it. So, what are you doing now? What is it? What is the project that is occupying the top of your mind at the moment?
What am I doing now?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I am, applying for jobs in the high tech sector. So basically, looking for my next challenge, preferably in human resources, in a global company, in high tech, trying really to look for a company, that makes an impact on the world, trying to use, the experience that I gained in the academic world and in the NGO world and the set of skills that I have to, really contribute to the next company that I'm going to be working at, whether it's, you know, trying to, um, how can I say this? Let's say, uh, adding, to the culture of the company when it comes to volunteering, when it comes to, having an environmental, friendly company, or your company with a, healthy lifestyle for the employees. I mean, there are, nowadays a lot of, global companies. I mean, they want to make an impact in the society, even more than before. And there are, departments in the companies of diversity and inclusion, sustainable development, and you really see, that the companies, try to take, I mean, they invest in their employees. They invest, in something that can really have a very positive impact on the planet afterwards and the society itself. They want to give back. They want to give back to society. They want, their employee to have work-life balance. They want them to be happy so that afterward they continue to also make profit. I mean, again, it's very general and I don't want to, talk for, anyone in particular, but I guess that this is something that is for me as, a job seeker really attractive in a market that is very innovative, always, diverse and moving, dynamic, and something that I really hope I can be a part of really soon.
All right, that's great. I wish you good luck on that. In life, we are moving from one step to the next, no?
Yes,
this one has ended, then we move to the next one.
Always moving to the next step, exactly.
So, if there is anything, okay, that you can say you have learned, a kind of a lesson that has been very important for you in this your years of moving from US, France to Israel, what would you say it is?
Never take anything for granted. You never know what's going to happen, what is the next opportunity. We saw with COVID, so many people, were affected by it, and it had such an impact, like, that just comes back for us to think that, health is the first, and, the first a value, I guess, that not a value, but it's like something that is really essential and should come first. That is very important, I guess, when I think about me moving and studying here and studying there and meeting people over the world and working and building my life. I mean, you cannot control if you're healthy or not, but you can always try to lead a life where, you're trying to be the best version of yourself and to, eat healthy and try to exercise and everything at your level, obviously. But I think that, I just learned to have an open mind and think outside the box and know that you can learn from anything and from anyone, and not to judge people. Don't judge a book by its cover. You never know, who's behind. It's not because you are in a coffee with flip-flops and a short that you cannot be someone, that, I don't know, is leading a multimillionaire company, or someone that is wearing a suit is not necessarily someone that, is very, VIP or high up. I mean, don't judge people before getting to know them. I think that would be something that I learned along the years very, very well.
That's very valuable. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, what would be your final statement here to terminate the conversation that we have had today?
My final statement. I think that it is very important to never give up. Even if, things seem very difficult or without hope. I mean, you can always say there's always better, right? But there's always worst, and you can always, try to, be the best version of yourself and learn and really be ambitious, but also be very focused on, trying to, do good for the society, help your neighbor, help someone crossing the street, talk to your family, like, at a small level.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewafo. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you in the next episode.